feel alive. I'm just trying to make you feel so.
Yo, what is up? Welcome back to The Sleepover. It's your host, Sleep D's. Thank you for being here. If this is your first time being here, welcome. If you are back, welcome back. If this is your last time listening, I bid you adieu. Like I said, this is not for everybody. It's kind of for the music lovers who want to talk about topics on a deeper level. I like to draw parallels between songs and, my own interpretations and different things that they make me think of when I hear songs, applying them to modern day situations. And so we back. I know it feels like these were coming back to back every Monday, and I wanted to continue that, but things got a bit busy with my day job and been making a lot of incredible music I'm super proud of, so I've been riding that wave. I also had some speaking obligations. I went and spoke at KCON. It's my first time going to KCON. I did a panel on music production and what it's like being a songwriter at this level and what it takes to get there. And it was a really good conversation. I will have some footage and hopefully some audio of that. My mic that I was wearing actually died when I was on stage, but I'm waiting on the audio from KCON, so hopefully they give me that so I can show you the footage and show you some of the questions that I answered. Yeah, just living life, having a good time doing it, having a good time making music from a place of peace. I feel like that is a great place to work from. It's been a lifetime of working from a place of not feeling at peace, and I feel like a lot of artists have made great and incredible music from that space, but I want to see what it's like creating from a place of peace. And right now I feel like I have that, so I'm enjoying that, even though sometimes that can be fleeting. So we'll see. We'll see what happens with some of this music, but I'm happy. The music sounds good, and I'm stacking up that folder for 2025 amongst other things. And I'm just excited to share it. I will actually be going on a bit of a work trip pretty soon here, and I'll be doing some sessions. I'll be filming while I'm away, and I will be posting some things for YouTube, some things for Patreon, some things for Twitter, et cetera. And I want to give you a fly-on-the-wall view of like what it's like to be a music producer, from the meetings to the behind-the-scenes stuff to the, working on the songs and showing you how these things come to life. I feel like clips are shown, but I feel like overall it's underrepresented. I feel like when you see it, it's only glorious, and it's only small bits of it. So I want to give you a little bit more of the full picture of how this works. So hopefully you enjoy that. Shouts out to the Patreon family, the BFFs and the legends and the friends there and the homies and everybody that's there supporting. The community is bubbling and it's great, and there's always some dope conversation musically going on there. And I'm very proud of the ecosystem that's being built there. Super grateful for the community, and we are just starting. I have some really big plans for this community. I can't get fully into details yet because they involve some IP, and you know how it is when people steal ideas, especially in my line of work. And it's going to be very, very well worth it. Everybody's going to be very proud to be a part of what this is. So I'm excited to have you all there. I hope you guys have been enjoying the YouTube videos that we've been dropping, me and Varnell, as I've been taking him down Purple Rabbit Hole and introducing him to people in the group and him enjoying that process. I know there's a lot of people that are like, when are you going to do vocal line, or when are you going to do this? But I feel like there's, so much talent within the group, and I wanted to take my time and kind of highlight, the genius of people. You got to realize that, like, for Varnell, he's only heard what I've played him. He's not listening to this in his spare time. So, like, when he's coming by, he's hearing stuff. I think we've done like 6-7 episodes or something like that. So those are the only times in his whole life that he's heard the music from his catalog. So we're having a fun time going down this journey. It had to go this way. Right Place, Wrong Person was the album that he had to hear first for for this to work, because I know him. And so, yeah, we're having fun doing that. And we just did a breakdown of the Rolling Stone interview with RM and Pharrell. And that was a really good creative talk and creative conversation. So if you haven't checked that out, go to the YouTube, check that out, and make sure that you guys are subscribed. I saw a thing, I mentioned it before, it said that 30% of the people who are watching like the full lengths of the video are subscribed. And I feel like that should be a little bit higher, so let's get those numbers up, run us up so we can keep on putting out the dope content like that that's available for everybody on YouTube. It's taken me a while to get into the space of like public figure kind of thing. Because a music producer, I always enjoy being behind the scenes and like aiding the story of the person that I'm trying to help through music and, visual ideas and creative concepts and things like that. And so in doing this, I've struggled a bit, not with consistency, but just with the want to be so public all the time. I'm a pretty private person. But when I'm doing these, it feels like I'm just talking to you guys, so that helps a lot. But the way that I think about just media in general, and I have like a huge disdain for the way that things are sensationalized online. A 2-second, a 5-second, a 10-second clip, and you have the whole world having a discourse and making an opinion and giving backstory for something that they are honestly often too lazy to even click the actual article and read or check out what's going on. Whatever the sensationalized title or headline is, that's usually the story that a good chunk of people tend to run with. And that alone is enough to make me not want to be a public figure, not want to be out front, because I'm a human being at the end of the day, and I'm going to say something that someone's not going to like. And I just see what people do with those situations, and it's pretty worrisome. And it just, it's not, a lot of people say like, oh, it's what you signed up for. But it's like, it's not what we signed up for. We signed up to make music, and people think that that part of the game is just supposed to come with it. And it does to a degree, but that doesn't mean that it's like, right, or that it's fair. And anytime I watch one of my friends go through, these kind of situations where the media is flipping a lot of things on them, it's never easy, because you get put in a position as a friend or as a supporter, or if you speak out in favor of that person, then you get villainized with them. And if you don't say anything, you feel like a bit of a fraud, or you feel like you're handcuffed. You feel like you can't say stuff, or you can't stand by somebody when they're going through a tough time, when they're in the public eye, because you might lose an opportunity work-wise being too close to a person. And there's levels to this, There's some things that people do that are just heinous, and there is no standing next to them publicly. You have to put them down. But there's a lot of times where these mistakes are just mistakes. And when I see them, it's like, where do we draw the line at? If I publicly support someone who has made a mistake that they've apologized for and they're truly sorry for, even if I don't agree with the penalty or the harshness of it, what gets said about me? What opportunities do I lose for doing that? It's just a weird space that it's in. Like when you have any friend that is like famous or has some kind of notoriety, and some kind of trouble comes. And I'm not speaking about anybody in particular in this instance. I have friends musicians that are famous, that play pro basketball, pro football, and when I see things happen and I see all the judgment that gets passed on the internet from all these perfect people, it's a lot, and I feel like it's a lot for people to deal with in those situations. And as disgusting as the media can be, I understand, it's their job to sensationalize these things, I guess, because that's how they make money, to keep these 24-hour news cycles going. They have to create things to talk about. And I know with things like Twitter and social media, the news spreads faster than it has ever spread before throughout history. So I understand that. But I feel like there still needs to be some responsibility, some of the things that I saw that happen with Sugar, with the, drinking and driving challenge and, spreading that around and making it seem like that was Army participating in that. That kind of stuff is just gross. And it's I don't even have the words, it's just off-putting, and it's irresponsible. Like, what kind of journalism is that? Where are we when it comes to stuff like that? Because a lot of this behavior kind of comes from the top down. Like, everybody has a take. Like, I'm on a microphone giving a take right now, and granted, I have a lot more experience at giving my opinion on something that I've dedicated my life to. People get on the internet and have no experience in anything and give their expert opinion on stuff every day. And if the news is reporting stories like this, then how can we expect better behavior from people on the internet, And for the people on the internet, like, you're not off the hook, like, the crazy thing about the internet is, like, people get up every single day, talk about things that they hate, and kind of get online just to not take advantage of all the opportunities that exist online for free. And they get online and it's like they're playing a video game, and they're playing a video game with like the unlimited lives. Like, I used to play like, what was that game when I was a kid? Contra. You had the Contra code, you had unlimited lives. And even playing that game back then like that, after a while, it kind of got boring because there was no consequence. There was no risk, And I feel like that's how people treat social media in general. They're online playing a video game with unlimited lives, and you get to get on there, be loud and wrong without any consequence, and you get to wake up and do it again the next day and do it the next day, and you don't care. And when you get called out for it, you write it off as, I'm trolling, I'm just trolling. And it's like, sometimes it could be funny, but it's like situations like this, like these, there's real people on the other end of them, and they're real human beings. And when you're a public figure, you're not playing with unlimited lives. You kind of get one. You do something that pisses somebody off, and next thing you know, you're canceled and different things like that. Your streaming numbers are down. You're losing endorsements and all these different things like that. So I think that there could just be a lot more grace from all the perfect people online passing judgment on people's lives. And the song that I was listening to that really made me think about a lot of this is called Mortal Man by Kendrick Lamar. As irresponsible as the media can be with reporting, and people who are on the outside looking in, how they can be when they're passing judgment on a situation, you expect that from people. But what I don't expect is from people who call themselves fans of people who, you say that this person has helped you get through tough times, or their music has saved your life, or their movie has done this for you, or a performance that they had on the field or on the court inspired you to do something greater with your own life. And as soon as that person does something wrong, you're not a fan anymore. To me, those are the situations that feel like, you were never a fan. Some of the stuff I've seen a ton of support from Sugar and from the community and things like that. I've seen some people saying things like, that just didn't really make sense to me, not from a fan's perspective, and people centering the situation around themselves and personalizing around themselves. There was an apology. There was full acceptance of responsibility and accountability for the situation. And before there was even any surveillance video, there were so many opinions on what should happen and what should happen to this young man's career and his livelihood, based off of limited information, no victims in the situation, no injuries, limited information, and you guys are ready to off with his head. To me, that's just crazy. And one of the first lines in his song, Mortal Man by Kendrick Lamar, he says, when shit hits the fan, are you still a fan?
When shit hit the fan, is you still a fan?
And I think that is a great question. The thing about loyalty and unconditional love and, those kind of words is they are fun to say and they're fun to pretend like they're part of who you are, part of your makeup, part of your DNA. But you don't really know how much of it you have or don't have until it's time to use it. And a lot of times people who are quote unquote loyal or love you unconditionally, these are the kind of times where you see how true that is or how true that isn't.
When shit hit the fan, is you still a fan?
There's a lot of power in recognizing that you're not perfect. You're not a perfect human being, that you're going to make mistakes. And I think that fans have to get to a space of understanding that they make mistakes as well. The only difference is whenever they make a mistake, TMZ knows about it and the whole world finds out about it. Real quick, I want to throw in there one of the comments that I've seen a couple people leave on the YouTube videos in reference to RM, as they're referring to him as the philosopher who raps. And I would actually counter that and say hip-hop artists, I'd put their intellect, their processing speed on how they view society, I'd put them up against any philosopher from history. I think hip-hop artists are some of the greatest philosophers of all time. And I know that a rapper can be a philosopher, but do you think a philosopher can be a rapper? Maybe. I don't know. You think Plato had bars? You think Socrates could ride a beat like on Dane? Yeah, so back to one of my favorite philosophers of 21st century, Kendrick Lamar, Compton. The first line of the verse, he says, do you believe in me? Are you deceiving me? Could I let you down easily? Is your heart where it needs to be? Is your smile on permanent? Is your vow on lifetime? Would you know where the sermon is if I died in this next line? See? Could Plato do that over a beat? I'm not sure. But this speaks to the theme of the song Mortal Man. He's asking his fans if they'll be there when times get hard. If he does one thing wrong, how quick will you be to turn your back?
When shit hit the fan, is you still a fan?
That's what he's asking his fans in this song. That's why he's starting the verse off like this. Do you believe in me? Are you deceiving me? Can I let you down easily? He's asking the fans straight up, like, you saying that you believe in me, but to what extent? To what degree? What do I have to do for you to cut me off? He starts off that next line with saying, if I'm tried in a court of law, if the industry cuts me off, if the government wants me dead and plants cocaine in my car, would you judge me a drug head or see me as K. Lamar? Or question my character and degrade me on every blog? Here, he's saying that if he was to ever get in trouble, even if it was a situation where he was actually set up, are you going to care enough to even try to figure out that I was set up? Or are you just going to judge me and degrade me on the blogs and go off of the story that you heard, even though you've heard my music, you know my character, you know my heart, you know who I am through my songs? Would you stick around and try to understand what's happening, or would you be quick to pass judgment and just write me off? In the second verse, there's a line that really sticks out to me where he says, who has your best interest? How clutch are the people that say you love you and who's pretending? More of the same thing to go along with this theme. This is the other side of the coin when someone sees trouble and they're in the public eye. From my own experience, through friends, it looks like it can be a pretty isolating time to be going through something that's all over the media and being covered by the media and having like fans turn on you.
When shit hit the fan, is you still a fan?
And I imagine that, this is just me speculating, but I imagine that going from being on top of the world and doing what you want as you please to a degree, and then having to go perform your civic duty on behalf of your country. It's a lot of freedom that was given up. And I can only imagine what it's like to be, in his shoes and the ways that, they go about coping and getting through that term. It will be hard for anybody, and it's easy to sit back and judge and say, oh, I would do this or I would do that, but, you don't know what it's like. You don't know what it's like to be that successful, that famous, and to put all of that to a stop momentarily to go perform your civic duty and not complain about it, Go do it honorably and proudly. I'm proud of them for doing that in the way that they've handled it. And this situation, I never speak on the politics there or exemptions or anything of the sort, because it's not where I'm from. It's not my place. And I know my place. And I think that that is also a theme of what goes on here. I think that a lot of people don't know their place anymore, especially when it comes to the way fans operate and feel like they have some form of ownership over a talent because they like the way that they rap, sing, or dance, or dribble a basketball or so forth. So a level of entitlement that comes with that. And the reason why I use the word entitlement is because to pass off that level of judgment on somebody like you're perfect, I don't know what else to call it. Now, in the third verse, this is my favorite verse of the song. I mean, I love this whole song in general. And if you never heard it, I definitely suggest giving it a listen and maybe pull up the lyrics on Rap Genius or something like that and follow along. It's actually a 7 or 8 minute song, even though the actual song is a lot shorter. And then if you've never heard it before, there's like a nice little twist and surprise appearance at the end because it wraps up the story that the album tells. And it's actually the album that Kendrick Lamar won the Pulitzer Prize for first hip hop artist to ever win it. Very, very amazing album, full of jazz and funk. And I actually think it's one of the albums that inspired some of the sonics of Right Place, Wrong Person. And it's called To Pimp a Butterfly by Kendrick Lamar. And so many good lines in this entire song, not just punchlines, but just lines that just actually penetrate and very poetic imagery. I won't read the whole verse, but I'm just going to read a few lines that stick out. He starts off the verse by saying, I've been wrote off before. I got abandonment issues. I hold grudges like bad judges. Don't let me resent you. And he goes on to say how he's searching for clarity. Like, how much do you cherish me? Is this relationship a fake or as real as the heavens be? And then he says, I have to question it all. He says, family, friends, fans, cats, dogs, trees, plants, grass, how the wind blows, Murphy's Law. Basically, he's putting you in his shoes as someone who is someone that the world wants something from, people around him want something from, and he has to question everybody's intentions around him. And will they be here for him if he's ever in a time of need or if he's ever in trouble? He wraps up his verse by saying just a line that these bars gave me goosebumps the first time I heard it, just the way the song builds up and with the emotion and the message that he was conveying. He says, how many leaders did you say you needed then left them for dead? Is it Moses? Is it Huey Newton or Detroit Red? Is it Martin Luther, JFK shooter, you assassin? Is it Jackie? Is it Jesse? Oh, I know it's Michael Jackson. Oh, when shit hits the fan, are you still a fan? And he goes on to repeat that.
When shit hit the fan, is you still a fan?
Now, there's so much I can unpack in this part and do an entirely another hour on just this last phrase here, but I'm not going to do that. We're just going to keep it short. But the people he named here. So he starts off this phrase by saying, "How many leaders did you say you needed, then left them for dead?" Now, this is a reoccurring theme that just happens over and over and over. You know, people look to leadership, or they want someone to lead, and they want every step of the way to be perfect. It's absolutely ridiculous. You know, people will bicker and complain about everything that someone who steps into that position to be a leader is trying to do to try to help. You complain about it every step of the way instead of, you know, rolling up your sleeves and participating and trying to make things better. The leaders he named here was interesting. He named Moses. He named Huey Newton. He named Detroit Red, who is Malcolm X, for those of you that don't know. Named Martin Luther. He named JFK, and I like how he flipped this line here when he said JFK. He said, "Shooter, you assassin." So by him saying that, he's referencing the fans again. He's facetiously asking the fans, "Are you going to be the ones that assassinate me?" And then he goes on to name Jackie Robinson, who was the first black man to ever play in the major leagues. And lastly, he names King of Pop himself, Michael Jackson.
When shit hit the fan, is you still a fan?
Probably the most famous celebrity to ever live, one of the greatest musicians of all time. He faced a lot of scrutiny after accusations that I won't get into here. And there's a lot of people that feel like these things were set up. There's a lot of people that feel like he might have done these things. There's a lot of fans who stuck by his side. There's a lot of fans who turned on him and called him all sorts of things. And that's the theme of the song. You know, that's the theme of this episode. When shit hits the fan, are you still a fan? I think it's a question that, you know, a few of you might need to ask yourself after some of the stuff that was said online and things that were spewed before even seeing facts or hearing the facts or seeing what was going on, you know. Not excusing anybody's behavior. You know, accountability is important, especially as a grown man or as a grown woman, as a grown person in general. And when someone takes accountability and they apologize for their actions, why is the go-to nowadays to try to take someone's livelihood and say they shouldn't be able to do the thing that they love anymore? Absolutely ridiculous. Cancel who? No. And one of the reasons why I'm just not big on the concept of cancel culture is because, to me, especially when it comes to, you know, other minority groups in general, to me it feels like when you are not a minority, it just feels like there's always like a PR path back to get into good graces. And, you know, we've seen this happen time and time again. You know, Robert Downey Jr. is Iron Man now. A lot of younger people don't know how reckless Robert Downey Jr. was in the 90s. He got plenty of chances. I pretty much predicted this whole Armie Hammer situation. Like, he was accused of cannibalism and a ton of other stuff. And now I kind of see him on this PR path to making it back. And, I mean, Shia LaBeouf, he's had his ups and downs, and he's always making his way back to a movie, and he'll probably end up being in something Oscar nominated at some point. And he was accused of, by his girlfriend in a story, he was accused of shooting a dog, you know, amongst other things. And these things don't really like stick, you know, and it seemed to be a reputable story. And, you know, all of this is allegedly, but his ex, FKA Twigs, put all of this stuff in the story. You know, there was abuse and lots of other things I don't even need to get into. But I'm not really into cancel culture, especially when it comes to minorities, because it just seems like a way to control other groups and make sure people stay in line while the rules are not the same for everybody involved. You know, if it was the same across the board, then it would be, but that's not how society works. And so I think that, you know, as a culture in general, you know, we can do our own job of holding our celebrities accountable for the things that they do. And, you know, demanding apologies, demanding action for the things that they do when it's necessary, but not allowing other people to cancel the people that we admire. For the younger people that are saying these things without a lot of life experience out in the real world, I understand. I understand, and I know that you don't know. But, one day there's going to be a 30-year-old version of you, and if you're lucky, you'll look back at your behavior online one day and you'll be embarrassed by it, like best case. And worst case, if you make it somewhere in life, hopefully it doesn't cost you anything. And there's plenty of young people online that carry themselves like adults and in a much more proper way. And I don't want to generalize all young people because it's unfair. It's hard enough for everybody as it is. And I think that there can just be a lot more grace from fans towards the people that they admire and realize that the people on the other end of the internet, as human beings reading these things and seeing the things that get said about them or said to them, just even etiquette and how you approach people on the internet, It's cool to treat it like a video game sometimes, but do you really just want to treat it like a video game with unlimited lives every time you jump on? Just realize that, there is consequences to the things you say, whether you feel them or not. There are things, and I want to just challenge you, like anybody that's listening to this, if you are 15, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, I want you to just close your eyes. I want you to think about something wrong that you've done. It can be something that you got caught, that you got in trouble for, or it could be something that only you know. Don't be fake right now. Nobody can hear your thoughts. Think of something where you know you did something wrong. Now I want you to think about how you felt or how you feel about this thing that you did that was wrong. Now I want you to imagine waking up and this thing that you did that was so wrong that you still feel when you think back about it right now. Imagine that being all over the internet, all over TMZ. Everybody's talking about it on news channels. Imagine feeling isolated because of a mistake. I want you to just think about that. How does that feel?
Lord, everything you need, come and see a real one. Time for you to feel alive. I'm just trying to make you feel something.